Hello everyone, and welcome to Starshine Legacy, Episode 1, Mystery of the Soulriders, a 3D platformer featuring horses. I love that intro for how goofy it is and how confused it seems. At the beginning, the intro states, you decide your own destiny. You are your own person. Your life is yours to control. And then it says immediately after, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes your destiny just isn't yours. It's really cute. Anyway, we're the new girl, Lisa, at Jorvik, and we'll be attending Jorvik High School, predictably. This game is strange. It is a linear, level-focused 3D platformer video game, and it was released exclusively as part of a book club called Pony. Presumably, the goal of the Pony Book Club was to send out books to little girls who liked ponies, if my research is of any indication. But for some reason, Pony Book Club occasionally commissioned entire video games, like this one and its 3 sequels. These games all have collectibles in the form of fallen stars. We're going to be getting all of those across this playthrough. Let's look at the Jorvik High School trophy case. While looking at the writing competition trophies, we will be accosted by a mysterious man in a trench coat. He's wearing a tuxedo under that trench coat, by the way. Very snazzy man. He will ask us if we like horses, and it's a little creepy. Don't know what he's doing in the school. And he'll bring up a crucial component to Lisa's backstory, that she was once hurt by a horse, experienced physical trauma because of horse riding some years ago. How does this guy know so much about us? Yeah, I agree, this is a very yuck situation. Wait, where is he going? We can't just let him leave. Who let this mysterious, dangerous stranger into the school, allowing him to accost young children who are the same size as him, asking them questions about their mysterious dark past and determining their astrological signs? We have to cut him off. Can't let him escape into that hallway with nothing in it. That hallway that just goes nowhere. I'm on to you, Mr. Sands. You're up to something suspicious. Nobody dresses like that. Well, we have to register for school, so we can't stay here forever. But Mr. Sands can stay there forever, and he will. It seems we put a kink in his plans for now. His sinister designs have been thwarted. The janitor, it turns out, is not in his office. He's responsible for registering new students for some reason, although he's the janitor. And one of our fellow students, Anne, has appeared behind us to accost us, similar to Mr. Sands, appearing as a specter, a wraith. She'll agree to help us, but only if we go give a boy named Josh her phone number, which, I mean, okay. Really, this seems a little unorthodox. I just want to register so I can start attending classes. But I suppose it never hurts to make friends with the popular girl. I will say right off the bat, I do appreciate that the popular snobby, somewhat haughty character is not a villain in this game. Anne back there, she's not the bad guy of Starshine Legacy. She's one of the protagonists. Apologies for the spoilers, but you could probably have figured that out yourself. This is hardly as good as a rarity situation or any such thing, but still, it's nice when the rich character who cares about her clothes and appearance is not just a villain for arbitrary reasons. Now Anne will be giving us instructions about where to find the janitor. Turns out the janitor's just upstairs talking to what Anne describes as the most stuck-up girl in school. So we know that she must be really stuck up. And we're about to encounter one of the most bizarre plot elements I've seen in anything. We'll try to walk past this teacher. who Lisa recognizes as Ms. Graham. You figure walking past a teacher to go get registered wouldn't be a problem.
I know.
But she yells at us for running, and then bizarrely says that we can't just run around without books. Understandably confused, our character is going to ask, do we need books just to walk around? The answer is yes. We can't go anywhere without holding books. Does it need to be our books? No, because we can't get our books until we register, and we can't register unless we have books. This obstacle is very strange. I understand this is a game for young children, but it gets pretty complicated later, and if you're going to have a complicated story, you should probably trust children to parse when the obstacles you're putting in their path are kind of insane, nonsensical. I cannot imagine a legitimate reason why you would prevent a child from registering because they don't have their books with them, especially when they need to register to obtain said books. Maybe that teacher just hates us in particular. We're now talking to Linda, one of the other main characters and one of the most fleshed out. She loves books. We're going to borrow some of her books. Or at least we would borrow some of her books, except she lost the keys to her locker. And we need to go talk to Alex, the final main character, in order to unlock her locker. You can probably see what's going on here. We've got Lisa, the punk, rebellious new girl. We've got the haughty one, obsessed with fashion, in Anne. We've got Linda, the bookish one, who's very self-motivated. And we're going to go talk to Alex, who's the handyman tomboy. Here's Alex right now. Alex really likes to act tough, and she's only going to help us out if we catch her. She's gonna run, and we gotta tackle her down. And with how much she's talking this up, we're probably gonna have a hard time of it. We might be here a while. She also rather explicitly calls us cute, which, I mean, it may be teasing, sort of an insult, but it's still kind of a weird thing. Weird thing to do to someone you've just met. Her desire to seem tough will one day be her downfall. Alright, time to catch her. There we go. That was not what it was cracked up to be, Alex, if I'm being honest. I do really wish this game came out on the PlayStation 2, along with its 3 sequels. They're a bit short to be released individually, though. Like I said, these were only available through a book club, originally. But if you spliced all the games together, it would make a fine PlayStation 2 game. Okay, maybe not fine, but... Oh, I guess the contents of the locker just explode out when you open it. Maybe that's convenient. Anyway, for some strange reason, Sabine's cell phone is in Linda's locker. Sabine being that supposedly stuck-up girl that's talking to the janitor. Linda seems nice. I'm not sure that Linda would steal Sabine's phone. But regardless, we found the phone in her locker. That's pretty damning, isn't it? Then again, how could she have put Sabine's phone in her locker without her locker keys? Maybe she misplaced her locker keys after stealing Sabine's phone. And here's Sabine herself still talking to the janitor. Sabine seems confident that her cell phone is in Linda's locker. Awfully suspicious that she would just seem to know that Linda's the one who stole her phone. We will get to the bottom of this perplexing mystery. This mystery of the Soulriders. I am playing this on a gamepad, by the way. As far as I'm concerned, that's the only way to play it. I got a real hand cramp trying to play it with keyboard and mouse because of the horse controls. Anyway, we've returned Sabine's cell phone, and she dropped Linda's locker key. Mr. Janitor, she dropped some school property on the ground. Why aren't you picking it up? Why aren't you reacting to this circumstance? I guess we'll grab it. Alright, Mr. Janitor. I see you're wearing a shirt with the name of the town you're from. Very classy. Let me just get a good look at that goblin face of yours. The janitor will rotate in place, similar to a JRPG character, and he immediately knows that we need to register. I guess that makes sense, because we are new. He probably recognizes all the new students. He actually works here 24 hours a day, as we'll see later, and performs practically every task in the school. At long last, we have our books, and we are registered. What a bizarre first day that was, even as far as bizarre first days go. Alright, here we are at long last at the Horse Place, the Jorvik Riding School, where we will return Linda her keys. We'll also do a fair bit of exploring here, most of it unintentional, but we do need to get the Fallen Stars after all. If you're curious as what the Fallen Stars do, the answer for the first 3 games in the series is that they do nothing. Hi, Anne. You're here at the stables? Presumably like all the main characters? I see every one of the main characters loves horses. I'm sure that won't be crucial to plot elements that we'll find out about later in the narrative. Unsurprisingly, Josh is also here, adding more fuel to our love triangle. Triangle? I meant triangle. Will Josh choose Lisa? Will Josh choose Anne? Will Lisa or Anne choose Josh? Who can say? Who can say? Alex is here performing more handyman tasks like fixing the feeder so that the horses can actually eat. While having an automatic feeder to feed the horses is pleasant, I assume you could manually feed the horses also. I can't think of a reason you couldn't do that. I feel like horses got fed before an automatic feeder was a thing, but still probably nice to have it fixed. The sky is very purple in Jorvik. Jorvik is a very mysterious island. We are on an island, by the way, in case you're curious. We're on an island over a void. A yawning void that the ground dips toward. Being pulled into something. This game has a very surreal atmosphere. Alright, so before we go talk to Linda, I want to go look at the circuit. The circuit where horse races and horse competitions are held. Because that area is not off limits. Usually the game will lock doors if you're not meant to enter them yet. But this is one case where it doesn't. So we can just go see the circuit now. There we go. If you're curious more about this game's release history... Wow, there's some sort of a tumor sticking out of this rock wall. That's unfortunate. And we can see... You can see over here that even though there are no gates, we can't walk through. I suppose that we should just go around. I suppose I said that we should just go around. There we go. Ah, now we can't go back. I guess we're taking the long way back. So, as I was saying, if you're curious about this game's release history, while it is true that the games were initially only released as part of a Pony Book Club, this game, Mystery of the Soulriders, eventually got its own standalone... This game, Mystery of the Soulriders, eventually got its own standalone release and even had an ESRB rating. I can assume it did not sell well because the other 3 games were never released. It was a bad idea to release this one by itself for retail. It's only an hour long, it's very unpolished. You really need the other 3 games to get the full narrative. It's not complete by itself, per se. Oh yeah, and I suppose while we have time to talk about this sort of thing, this game runs just fine on Windows 10. I didn't have to mess with anything, I just put the disc right in Windows 10, ran straight out of the box, hooked it up to Steam so I could apply a controller to it. Apply gamepad configuration to it. Isn't it neat how Steam made literally every game controller compatible? I think that's pretty neat. And if you were wanting to play these games yourself, well, you could probably find copies of the games on eBay. The first game is available on Amazon because it was the one that was released for retail. But you probably have to go looking on eBay for the others because they were only released as part of the book club. You might think we're stuck here, but we can actually just go behind the bleachers to get back to the entrance of the circuit. So this game is not polished. You might expect as much given that it was released as part of a book club, but there are some things about it that are really interesting. The story of Starshine Legacy goes in some crazy places. It goes in some mildly interesting places in the first game that we're playing right now, but later it gets a bit out there in a good way. Now let's head to the stables proper, which we could have done from the beginning of the level, but I wanted to look around a bit. We'll be informed by Sabine that her horse, Khan, is the best horse, the bestest horse, and it will trample all the other horses into the dirt. And we'll be told by Mr. Herman, the keeper of the Jorvik Horse Riding School, that it's a little bit too busy here for us to apply for horse riding classes. But that's okay, because we weren't planning to. We're just here to find Linda. For some reason, Sabine calls us Little Red Riding Hood after this exchange. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. We're not wearing a Red Riding Hood. We're wearing a jacket. And while it seems to have a hood, I'm skeptical whether it could fit over our head. Alright, let's go down here into the water dungeon. Grab that last fallen star. And before we explore too much further, I want to go look at the tools over here. These tools which are invisible, yet coated in green slime. Something truly strange is going on in the town of Jorvik. Something truly strange. Oh look, a pretty horse. You must be the horse caretaker. We'll be informed this horse's name is Starshine, and he's practically catatonic. He used to be so lively, so fast, so horsey, but now they might have to kill him because he's not responding. And thankfully, in this game, the horses talk. Look at that pretty profile picture. Look at how pretty that horse is. That's a very pretty stallion. He's speaking directly into our mind. He's trapped in some sort of darkness, and it's tearing him apart from the inside out. Horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. We need to talk to someone about this. We can't just let this horse die, especially not now that we know that it's telepathic. Maybe all horses were always telepathic and we just didn't try hard enough. Hey, Linda. How strange life is that we would just happen to come upon Starshine in this state, and he would happen to choose us to talk to. Or is it perhaps something more than coincidence? The ominous music would seem to suggest it's something more than just coincidence. Either way, now that we're aware of Starshine's plight, we can't just let him die. That would just be cruel. I mean, there are probably alternatives to putting him down in the first place, but if we have to prove that he's a good racehorse so he won't be put down, I guess that's what we're doing. The commodification of animals is disgusting, but if we can use it to save a life, we'll use it to save a life. Addie Lovestar says, animal rights. We show up to Kerman, I called him Kerman. We show up to Mr. Herman with confidence in our heart, and he's convinced that we might be able to pull this off. Might be able to show everyone that Starshine's more than he appears, that he doesn't need to be destroyed. We're taken into the small circuit, and a lot of pressure on us, a lot of eyes on us. One of those sets of eyes belonging to Sabine, who's rather convinced that we're foolish. She'll say that we don't know how to take care of a horse, but at least we have our acquaintances who will later become our friends here to cheer us on. Oh no, is that Mr. Sands? What is Mr. Sands doing here? The darkness grows stronger when Mr. Sands is nearby. Never trust a man with a trench coat and a tuxedo. But before we do any actual riding, we must get to the most important mechanic in Starshine Legacy. We must pet the horse. There are two angles from which we can pet the horse, and I wish they would stop talking so I could pet the horse now. Let us pet the horse. There we go, that's the stuff. Let's pet the horse from the front. Yeah. Maybe there's a normal horse in there just waiting to get out, says Herman. What a bizarre thing to say. Is him being normal what's most important here? I thought him functioning as a healthy creature was what was most important, not his normality. But you know, if Mr. Herman is so concerned about checking whether there's a normal horse in there, I suppose we should, just for him. Let me just check. Nope, no normal horse in here. Sorry. Actually, there's nothing inside there, maybe because the darkness tore it all out. So it's time to board our horse and finally get into the horse riding mechanics of the game properly. How the horse controls in this game is actually pretty nuanced, but the idea is that the horse has multiple speeds, and you tap up on the W key or tap up on your control stick to control the horse's speed, change gears, so to speak. And you tap backward to slow down your horse. There's also a quick stop if you want to do that. And later the horse will jump. The horse has its own unique momentum, and it takes some getting used to, but when you get used to it, I think it controls quite nicely. After we approach Mr. Herman, we will be told that we're cleared to use the large area, the large circuit, the large paddock that we had explored previously. It seems that Starshine's getting better. Well, or perhaps it's just the perception of him that's improving. But either way, Starshine and Lisa seem to have formed some sort of healthy symbiotic relationship where Lisa feels feels safe around the horse again, and Starshine feels like he's dying less when he's around us. That seems ideal in a relationship. Maybe with help from Starshine, we will overcome our trauma and rediscover our love of horses. And maybe Starshine won't have to die. Both of these things would be optimal. Lots riding on this. The music suggests a lot is riding on this. The music is, in fact, always ominous, no matter what is going on, but it's a very ominous game. It only gets more ominous and creepy the further you go into it. Alright, here we go. Let's not let anyone down, Starshine. It's time for jumpies. The jumpies correspond to Starshine's momentum at the time, and turning after landing a jump can be rough, but as long as you tap on the control stick or keys, it's a lot easier to manage your turning speed. The tapping required to execute fine control is exactly why this game gave me a cramp when I played with keyboard and mouse, but with controller, it's fine. Anyway, we performed the course flawlessly. We're going to dismount and gain our praise, the praise we have rightfully earned for proving that this beautiful horse works just fine. The horse is not broken. Everybody seems so impressed with us. We're going to get a spot in the competition this weekend. Really, everything's just turning up great. But Starshine said he wasn't feeling so well. Maybe we should get Starshine back to the stables and make sure he's all right. Because not that I don't appreciate the praise, but it seems like they're... Oh no. Years ago, we were hurt by a horse, and now we've been hurt again. This time in our hearts. Why must misery befall us just when all seems to be well? It's always the way of things, isn't it? Life punches you in the gut right when you're starting to enjoy yourself. Right when you're starting to think things could be better. By the way, seriously, can we get the horse back to the stables before he dies? So many strange occurrences since we've arrived in Jorvik. So many things we don't understand. So many things we might never understand. At least Herman seems to be in good spirits. He's wearing the biggest smile. As happy as ever. It's really hard to get Herman down. Speaking of Mr. Herman, he's fairly certain, after that display, that we have some sort of special power, that we can communicate with Starshine in a way that no one else ever could. Perhaps that makes us a Soul Rider. The mystery deepens. If we look inside ourselves, maybe we can do something they can't. Maybe we can heal Starshine, where medicine has failed. Alright, let's sparkle him up. Did that do it? It seems to be having some effect. Let's go for it again. Sprinkle some more magical dust on Starshine. Oh, hello, Mr. Sands. It doesn't seem to be working. It seems we're not strong enough. Maybe our soul is not powerful enough. And of course, with both Sabine and Mr. Sands here, they have their own villainous takes on what's going on. Sabine will insult Starshine. Mr. Sands will offer to buy Starshine. Your usual terrible nonsense. We could also see that Sabine was talking with Mr. Sands in the background a short while ago. Why would those two be communicating? What's going on here? Something suspicious. Maybe Sabine's more than just a stuck-up schoolmate. Maybe there's something dreadful lurking beneath. And why did Linda run off to the library so suddenly earlier? There are so many things we don't understand. So many things beyond our reach, beyond our scope. We just arrived in this town, too. Feels like we're really in over our head. Oh, Mr. Sands is trying to escape. We must pursue. Oh, we're being called. For the first time, someone is calling our cell phone. Our very 2005 cell phone. Oh, hey, Linda, I thought you ran off to the library? What are you doing here? Like, I heard you say you were leaving to the library. We gotta follow... Oh, Mr. Sands has stopped. I suppose that's that. Alright, Linda, I'll talk to you after I answer my phone. Let me just... Hey there. Linda, you're the one talking to me on the phone. How unexpected. You need me to come to the library right away? Because you've discovered something at the library? I guess I'll go, but... You're right here. You're not at the library, Linda. What's going on? We returned to the school, but now it's all spooky. It's all spooky in the school. Because it's after hours. The janitor's still here, though. He's acting as a security guard right now for some reason. He's not a very effective security guard, but if he catches us, we will be in trouble. But we have to see what Linda wanted that was so important we had to rush here immediately, so we'll just deftly outmaneuver Mr. Janitor. And join Linda in the very, strangely lit library. It seems some very particular books have gone missing, and it would be unlikely for those particular books to be the ones we need to learn more about Mr. Sands, but can't hurt to be sure, of course. It is always the sleepiest, most unassuming towns that seem to attract such strange characters. Greenvale, Jorvik, something about such unassuming places. Maybe that's what makes the villains so eager to approach. This is, after all, the last place anyone would suspect for there to be villainy. I was going to bring up Lucare because I never pass up a chance to reference Deadly Premonition 2, but given the events of Deadly Premonition 2 and the folks in Lucare, seems like one of the most likely places for villainy to occur. Like, I think anyone would suspect that place containing strange occurrences and villainy, given the circumstances. How could we have been so foolish as to leave Starshine's side? At night, no less. The mistake has been made, and we're here now. Came as fast as we could. But before we actually head into the stables, it's time for some really great world building. So most games don't make great excuses for their collectibles, but in Starshine Legacy, the fallen stars that you collect are actually fallen stars. That is incredible. You find the stars in this level just by looking up at the sky for any of them that appear to be a little off, and they crash into the ground right in front of you. That's supremely creative for a game like this. I wish more games would do something like this with their collectibles. Make it clear how they got there, where exactly they came from. And do it in a way that encourages exploration, a way that fits into the interactivity. It's kind of a genius moment, really. It requires keen perception like finding fallen stars and collectibles usually does, but it's a unique perspective on the matter, I would say. Wouldn't quite call it a deconstruction or anything, but it's pretty special. Now we're here to suffer the bad news about what happened to Starshine. Predictably, Starshine got stolen by Mr. Sands. He was talking about how badly he wanted to steal Starshine, so we probably should have seen this coming. Starshine is quite a special and very pretty horse, so we can't exactly blame a villain for wanting to take him, but we also don't know whether he'll be safe, and he was the first person we connected with on an intimate level when we arrived in Jorvik. He was helping us overcome our trauma. Let's look around for clues as to what happened. So I definitely understand matchboxes having logos on them. I get that. But who wrote DC Barricade on the matchbox? Like, that obviously stands for Dark Core Barricade, but did they forget where they worked and needed to write it down on their matchbox or something? Do they have amnesia problems? I also think it's weird, given what we'll find out later, that Dark Core has matchboxes with their logo on it, but they might also have mugs and novelty t-shirts. This cutscene where Sabine comes to lock us in, it can just bug out sometimes. Like, there's just a chance it won't work properly and the game will soft lock. Sabine will just keep standing there, the dialogue won't trigger. Luckily, there's actually a switch that opens the door in here, too. And I'm not sure how it works, and I want to criticize how it works because it just seems strange, but if there's one thing I've learned recently, it's that my ability to criticize or analyze things besides character motivations and general narrative structure is severely lacking, so let's just go with it. Let's just assume that this lever which opens the door checks out. It is stuck, so we need Anne and Alex to hold it down, and Alex dropped her special tool for us to use, a tool that looks nothing like any real-life tool I've ever seen. Alright, Alex's tool is going to be very useful because it just does whatever we need it to. But now the door is open and we have decided not to call the cops. Calling the cops is for suckers. Our magical horse was stolen and we're going to go get him back, show him we love him, and that we regret leaving him with creepy people where he might be kidnapped. I like to think there are a few things that a girl won't do to regain possession of her magical horse. This game makes it very obvious that although we haven't spoken much to Starshine, Starshine is extremely important to Lisa. And it is now time for some infiltration into a dark and mysterious industrial complex to save him. I mean, this is no Metal Gear Solid or Alekine's gun, but it's alright. There's some alright obstacles in this level. I've played this game a few times, so I know the route. You'll see what happens after we turn all these valves yourself. I'm not going to comment on it. I don't feel like it. The idea, of course, is to avoid the spotlights while we turn these valves. If we get caught, we simply have to restart the entire level. It's not really a Oh, stuck. It's not really a huge penalty. You learn that you can be reckless with it pretty quickly. In case anyone's curious, by the way, this game does have speedruns and a small speedrunning community, including speedruns that show all of the star locations and where to collect them. There's some pretty goofy skips you can do in these games. I'm probably not going to show them because I'm not really here to speedrun the game, and if we perform those skips, we miss pieces of the narrative. Alright, the pipe blew up, let's go. I am, in fact, going to criticize that blowing up the pipe turned off the searchlights. That makes no sense. I refuse to hear any argument as to why that makes sense. That's where I draw the line. Oh yeah, you might recall at the beginning of this video that I called Starshine Legacy Mystery of the Soulriders a 3D platformer. This is the first level with any real 3D platforming in it, but it goes all out with it from here on out. And we're about to enter the first platforming section. It's nothing massive, but climbing on pipes like this, hopping around environmental hazards that are baked into the setting, reminds me a lot of early 90s, late 90s PC games. I meant late 90s, early 2000s. I knew what I meant. I love the pathfinding in games like that, so I love the pathfinding here as well. But we are getting closer to Starshine, as we'll find out here in a moment. There he is, there's his voice. He is weaker than ever before. It seems we could not have come too soon. We will inspect this suspiciously evil-looking van and find an electronic key card. For some reason, when we are near any door with this electronic keycard, it will open. This seems like a massive blunder. I'm not sure why you would want doors opening whenever an employee is within 15 feet of them. It seems like a huge security issue, a huge safety issue, and it's just impractical to have doors opening when you don't intend them to, just because you're in their proximity. There are a lot of references made to how Starshine feels like he's trapped in the dark, and I think it's quite obvious it's not a physical darkness. This is the closest the game gets to stealth. Basically, we make a noise and hide somewhere. I'm not sure why the plan was to hide behind this smoke. We're still quite visible behind it. Probably wasn't very safe to run straight through it either, but maybe we held our breath. Maybe we did. And after we pick up the fallen star, we're going to talk to Starshine and get some wonderfully sappy dialogue. Some sappy dialogue that maybe isn't earned, but still cute. I still like reading it. Oh no, Mr. Sands and his goons were lying in wait to capture us. He wanted to confirm that we had magical powers, and now he thinks he can catch us. What a fool he is. No matter how threatening you may be, you cannot outrun a magical horse, Mr. Sands. And now it is time, at long last, for the first big obstacle course of the game. First big obstacle course featuring horse riding. If you aren't used to the horse's momentum at this point, this section will force you to get used to the horse's momentum. There are many obstacles to overcome, many jumps to be made, and we have goons, dark core goons, chasing us the whole time. If they walk into us, they will laugh maniacally, and then we will have to restart this segment. When I first played this game, I lost here many times. I am a lot more comfortable with the way Starshine handles now. I still I still have some trouble in a few spots due to the turns that this segment asks of you. It's not my favorite level in this game either. That will come shortly, but it's a good introduction as to the kind of challenges the game intends to throw your way. If you're wondering what these blue stars we're picking up do, those are just to show us the proper way forward, which I approve of. You know, LEGO does something similar. They have blue studs for you to follow from one location to the next. It is worth noting that this segment features what I would call adaptive difficulty. I'm not sure if it's by intention, but the more times you fail this segment, the fewer goons there will be chasing you down. And I think... oh, we're screwed. I made that turn terribly. I'm not sure we're getting out of this one, boys. Yeah, we've been caught. Not my proudest moment, but in my defense, that jump is rather difficult to make properly. Shoutouts to the composer, by the way. I think that the music tracks used in all 4 Starshine Legacy games are quite nice. They're all ominous, eerie, fit the atmosphere the games are going for. A few times they don't quite fit because there's a couple times where the games aren't trying to be creepy. Few and far between. For this next level, which is my favorite level of the game, we are being chased by the Cloaked Rider, or the Dark Rider, if you prefer, and we don't want them to catch us because we will die. And the Cloaked Rider, or the Dark Rider, if you prefer, is Sabine. You might have been able to guess by looking at the illustration of the Dark Rider slash Cloaked Rider, and piecing it together based on events that happened in this game's narrative previously. But the game itself doesn't mention that the Cloaked Rider, or Dark Rider if you prefer, is Sabine. The only mention of this is in supplementary material. I don't know why they chose not to make this information explicit in the games proper, but it checks out. There are things we'll learn in the later games that only make sense if Sabine is the Cloaked Rider. So it's nice that there's an explanation. The Cloaked Rider's theme, which isn't playing right now for some reason, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be playing over this entire level. But anyway, the Cloaked Rider's theme, or the Dark Rider, if you prefer, is a remix of several other songs that play across the games. They just sort of took the most exciting and foreboding pieces of each track and strung them together to make the Cloaked Rider's theme. The turns and jumps in this level can be pretty tough. If you jump just a bit too early or a bit too late, you get stuck and fall to your death, or just stuck sometimes. The game's not exactly hyper-polished. But I think controlling the momentum of Starshine is part of the fun. I think it's an alright 3D platformer when you get down to the actual gameplay bits. Managing momentum and making single jumps over chasms may not seem terribly exciting, but I think that getting used to the controls is part of the challenge in itself, and then being able to conquer the obstacles is kind of the reward. Anyway, we've practically beaten the level now without a single sign of the Cloaked Rider. The Cloaked Rider is not a very formidable opponent. The obstacles in the level itself are much more formidable than our actual adversary. Here we are against all odds. We have survived. We've made it to the competition. We are healthy. Starshine is healthy. And the void underneath Jorvik is looking as purple/pink as ever. Things are turning up roses. Predictably, this final level is a competition against Sabine. You see, we already beat Sabine in unfair, magical matters across dangerous terrain. So now we just gotta beat her fair and square, and we'll have conquered her everywhere. We'll have thoroughly trounced her. This is also the first time, I think, that we get to see Khan up real close, and I love Khan's design, during this cutscene. When Khan gets real close to the camera, you'll see that he's like one grumpy, villainous horse, like we're talking Disney villain horse looking. So that's an evil stallion if I've ever seen one. You may have noticed, by the way, or perhaps you didn't notice because I never made it clear how many stars there were, but we've collected all of the fallen stars. Like I said, you don't get anything for collecting them all, but it does tally them up during the ending cutscene, so we'll get to see that at least as a reward for our hard work. So the competition's going to be a pretty simple race. Best 2 out of 3, though we still have to play all 3 if we win the first 2 for some reason. Sabine is not a great racer, it turns out, and there aren't many obstacles, so this isn't exactly a fantastic finale. I would consider it more of a victory lap for surviving all that we've survived these last day. I think it's only been 1 day that we've been here so far. Quite a lot has happened. I don't mean to state the obvious, but this is a bit of an odd game, isn't it? Released in a book club, which generally produces and sells books to those who subscribe. Seems a bit odd that one day you'd get your package and there would be a whole video game inside. The first of 4, no less, that span a supernatural narrative featuring magical horses and Soulriders. We haven't even gotten to the craziest bits yet. That will take some time. We'll see that in the future games, but I'm curious how this idea came about. Was it pitched to the Pony Book Club? Or did someone at the Pony Book Club have this idea and then commission someone to make it? In addition to the 4 games, there is also a comic roughly based on this first game, which spanned 2 issues, I think. There are 2 issues. Has some really lovely art. It expands on the characters a bit. They're a lot more believable in the comic. There are also, as of recent, if I understand correctly, novelizations of these 4 games. And the novelizations seem to patch up quite a few things in the narrative that the games glossed over or just left hanging. But, you know, regardless of what any adaptive material did better, this is the original art, the original story. This is the first you hear of Starshine, Lisa, Linda, Alex, and Anne, and the Starshine legacy. This was the premiere. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it, even though I think that these games have very interesting stories, come from a very interesting place, and I'm all about magical horses. There's some problems. The game's not polished. I edited out a few soft locks and glitches from this playthrough, and even though it may not be obvious yet, in future games, the story's kind of an overambitious mess. Don't get me wrong, they go for some really interesting and out-there stuff, and I love that. But plot elements get introduced and dropped seemingly at random, and when everything comes to a head in the 4th and final game, it feels like they just sort of forgot how to tie stuff together. Maybe they should have taken a few writing courses, examined some more cartoon media a bit closer to see how other stuff does it. Because you can appeal to young girls, tell a complex story with deep fantasy lore, and still make sense. Other things have done it, a lot of other things. It's possible. This isn't even the only horse-oriented franchise to attempt such a thing, obviously. But at least this first game, Mystery of the Soulriders, isn't altogether a bad start or anything. You understand what's going on with the characters, even if it's only on a basic level. And sure, Lisa may have formed the attachment to Starshine a bit too quickly, but the idea is obvious. Perhaps the biggest and also most petty complaint I have about the first game is that while the subtitle of Mystery of the Soulriders isn't inappropriate in any way, it's not like the mystery of the Soulriders is solved in this game, or is even the focus. It's more about introducing the world and characters, and we don't really figure out what a Soulrider is until it happens all at once in the third game. Oh, I suppose since I actually have physical copies of these games, I should mention what the cases look like. So, you'll see the case art. I'll link that, but more importantly, when you open the case, there's like a scene list, like you might find on a DVD case, but it's a level list instead of a scene list. Haven't really seen any other game do something like that. It's quite unusual, I think. Anyway, all that fun stuff aside, we're going to skip to the end of the final lap. And I hope you've enjoyed watching Mystery of the Soulriders. I love exploring unique, strange things like this. It's one of my favorite things about playing video games, especially older video games.